good evening. We are coming to you live from Warsaw, Poland. It has been an exciting few days of the second stage. We are on our last day. We're about to hear our final pianists. I would love to, in the meantime, share this fascinating talk with you in this intermission on artistic psychology, how stress affects performance. I'm joined by three wonderful guests. First, Anna Szapert. You're a therapist specializing in working with creatives. We have Professor Agata Szymczewska, a violinist, pedagogue, competition juror, and current you are the president of the Wieniawski Society. Welcome. And pianist Marcin Wieczorek. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope we'll have an insightful talk about this other side of performing, and especially in a very high stress, let's say, competitive environment such as the Chopin competition. Anna, you're a therapist. You've been working quite some years with musicians, dancers, you mentioned, actors. What brought you to this work, and what do you feel music education is something that maybe promotes stress, anxiety, or does it help with resilience?
I would say, first of all, that due to the fact that I myself am such an art consumer, and I am very much, I feel like we owe so much to all of the people who decide to devote their lives to performing art and being artists. When I had the opportunity to start working with the creative people, I thought it's like me paying it back to them to an extent. And I think that this life of a creative requires so much, and basically in psychological terms, it's mostly dealing with stress and anxiety. So I don't think that there are there are other professions, maybe sports people, but yeah, I would say that among artists there's the greatest amount of experts in dealing with stress, and due to that, if you have to become an expert in dealing with stress, you automatically become trained in building resilience, because there's no resilience without stress, and exposure to stress makes you more resilient. Of course, we would have to talk about the types of stress and the intensity, but yeah, probably we will come back to that.
But you mentioned also to me before that your son is a sprinter.
Yeah.
So, and we were speaking about how in sports, Agata, you were also saying that you take a lot of your insights and some methods to deal with stress from sports directly. Could you talk to us about that?
Yes, this is absolutely fascinating theme and a great field of, I would say, inspiration and knowledge, because sports psychology has been developing for already so many years, and there are so many great studies done in the United States and slowly also in Poland. There is a very strong community of sports psychologists that they have knowledge, they have experience, and they have a great success. So I believe that soon we musicians, we artists, we should definitely start working on our own music psychology based on the performance experience coming from the sport field. It's a really great inspiration for all younger, older, and the oldest generation. And you mentioned, well, of course, you are the first prize winner of the Wieniawski violin competition, very prestigious, and you were only 21, and now you're the president of the society, and you'll be running the competition, so you know exactly what it's like to be on stage, but now you're also a juror, a teacher. Do you feel like the stress levels maybe for young people these days are a little bit higher, or do you also see a change or trend? Well, it's a paradox, because I mean, our world is becoming a better place to live. We have much more good things around. We have people speaking about giving support. We have more and more knowledge. We slowly tend to really discover a lot of great things about our brain, how it functions. But at the same time, we are facing so much new types of stress that has never been a topic for example, in terms of my participation in the Wieniawski competition nearly 20 years ago. So being followed on social media, being always in the middle of attention worldwide, speaking about big events like a Chopin competition or the Wieniawski competition. This is something completely different from walking on stage and sitting at a piano or taking the violin in your hands and actually making music. So the level of the stress and the type of the stress starts way before actually you even decide to enter any big competition in the world.
Mm-hmm. And what would you advise your students, for example? I mean, it is also different environments that we artists deal with. We could be playing concerts, which would be a little more comfortable, Marcin, like you were saying, or we have juries, or we have these international stages. Is there any advice in particular you try to tell them?
I would say you need to kind of learn to live with that, because many people, always decide to do something contrary to what people say. So, for example, before a big competition, like switch off your social media. I mean, yes, you can do it, but you can't really escape from that, because there will be a day when you switch it on again, and all this emotion, all the troubles will come back. So you really need to work on, how to find yourself in this world. Always ask for help. And try to be inspired by the people that has been already through that story and they succeed, and learn from their experience. Many people are really happy to speak about what they did really great in their life, but also what kind of mistakes they did on the way to achieve something. So you can simply learn from that, and as I said, you need to find your own way to feel comfortable in this world.
I think what you said, always asking for help, that's, I think, very illuminating, because I think a lot of people, we were saying that there's a little bit of a stigma, or maybe, I don't know if it's taboo necessarily, but especially with music and creatives, mental health. For me, the whole period of COVID was a nice breakthrough, I thought, and people actually opening up and talking about, hey, it's actually not so great to be alone all the time, isolated. We miss each other. But then there's that paradox, like you said, that we should be a community, we should be more vocal and supporting each other, but at the same time, somehow it's so easy to get closed up.
Absolutely, yes. I would say that the most important theme and the most important part when it comes to dealing with stress, I would say, is familiarizing it. I think when we pathologize it and when we assume that it shouldn't happen, that there's something pathological about us being stressed or needing support, I think that's because then we become afraid and anxious of the stress itself. But then I would say the more you familiarize yourself with it, the more expert you become in understanding how your body responds, what your particular responses are, what your particular also individual ways of dealing with that are, the more chance you have of becoming somehow comfortable with that. I remember a study of a health psychologist who was talking about the fact that, forget the name right now obviously, but how the fact that one thing that really causes stress to be harmful to us is when we think that stress is the more we're scared of it being harmful, the more harmful it becomes. So one important step is actually saying, stress is a natural response. When you are mobilized, it is necessary. When you become stressed, it means your body is actually getting ready for the challenge. It's getting ready to meet the task, the goal you want to achieve. And you can learn how to become familiar with that and understand it, but then stress kills mostly those who really are scared of it. So I think this is also an important theme of depathologizing and becoming aware of it.
And speaking out loud. And Marcin, so you were a competitor in 2021. I watched the Pianoforte documentary where you're one of the main protagonists, and the cameras are following you, your preparations before, and we understand that you had a therapist. You're working with a psychologist leading up to the competition.
Yes, I worked with a psychologist, and that was a small experiment for me because no one from my friends had psychologist. I decided to try that because I had some problems. I felt stress when I took part in competitions. Also, I was very afraid of memory slaps. So because of that, I just wanted to try to talk with someone who is an expert. And we worked for 2 years before Chopin competition, and that helped me a lot.
Mm-hmm. Could you tell us some things that you found very helpful, you hadn't thought of before?
There are many great exercises to avoid bad situations on stage. For example, sometimes when we play, we think about what other people think. Mm-hmm. So to work on that, there is great exercise. You have to ask friend to stay next to you, 1 meter next to you. Mm-hmm. You play your whole recital, and this person criticizes you all the time.
While you're playing?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Then you have to focus very well on what you are doing with the keyboard. And you listen all the time those bad words about you. For example, oh, you missed something, this scale was awful, or something like that. And if you are
not bothered by it?
Then you try to be more focused on music, and then I think it helps a lot on stage to be more focused. And there are many of exercises like that, dozens of them, but that was one of my favorites.
That's fascinating.
But that's exactly the exposure that we're talking about. Instead of pretending that it's not going to happen, or instead of just not wanting to look into it, we actually, the friend that you mentioned becomes your inner critic. Like, you have the chance to meet him in real time, and therefore, see how
it's not the first time.
And I would say that one thing when it comes to dealing with the performance stress would be, just exactly what you mentioned. I mean, trying to imagine particular difficult situations on stage. But I would say it's very important also to look at it as a long-term process that is happening apart from just the performances. I mean, it's the process of education where you're familiar, where your teachers, your trainers, your coaches let you know about your resources, where you are taught to see what your strong points are, your strong sides. And I think especially when it comes to Poland and our traditionally, unfortunately, quite oppressive system of musical education. I don't know if you agree, but that's what I hear from the people I work with. I think this is a fundamental thing as well, apart from just working on what can happen during the performance itself, but just to strengthen the core, the self-esteem, the actual awareness of the resources of the musicians and of the performance.
And Marcin, how does it feel to be back here in 2025? We were speaking that you could have actually participated again if you wanted to.
Yeah, but I didn't want to repeat that. I have many friends who really wanted to take part again in this competition. I didn't want very much, but it's very nice to listen to other great pianists because there are so many, and I'm very glad to be there here.
Was it a hard decision for you, difficult when you decided to not take part after your first stage? Because you were about to play your second stage.
Yes.
And then right before you weren't feeling well.
I mean, for sure it was a hard decision, but I also feel like I had to make this decision because if I would go on stage and play in such condition I was in that time, probably this performance would be very bad. So I wanted to avoid that, and I am right now very happy with this decision that I resigned.
Oh, that's wonderful. And you're still performing. You told us today you just performed 3 concerts, and you came over here.
Yes.
So you still find your joy and peace at the piano.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. Do you have any advice for the participants, or maybe people watching, young people, of course, who might be dealing with a little bit of stress, or who envision a career, and it's quite a different moment right now, like you said, with technology and and social media?
I think with the participants right now, I think they're just, I hope they can do whatever, like the best they can. I think they're at this stage of the process, just you can just keep your fingers crossed. But I think that, yeah, I guess just in general, from my perspective, because when I work with creative people, for me, of course, the important aspect of supporting them is their performance, but I think it's also very important to make them aware of the life that they have apart from their creative pursuits, because I think that's an important source of energy, and that's an important source of, reinforcement and support, and I guess it's just something that makes you more resilient in the long run. Mm-hmm. That treating your outside life and your hobbies, your relationships, the outside world as a source of reinforcement and support, and remembering about this, not thinking about life outside of your creative life as something that disturbs it or something that is an obstacle, but treating it as a source of potential energy. I think that's super important.
I think so too. Agata, do you?
Well, I can add to that. Never forget to have a happy, joyful moment while you're performing on stage. No matter how difficult it might be, you might experience such a rainbow of emotions while playing piano, violin, or performing on any other instrument, that sometimes it's really hard to even follow, not speaking about controlling your emotions, that's almost impossible. But if you can still, have this feeling of happiness, of joy, also of respect for the people that you're playing for, because they came here and they really would like to listen to your music, no matter how hard it is for you while you're doing it. I think that's the most important thing, and also trying to find a really supporting circle of the best friends, including family or your best friends or teachers or professionals around. I mean, that gives really so much strength and self-confidence, and you're not alone there. And speaking about that you're afraid that things might happen, also makes you feel more human. I mean, don't try to be a machine.
Yes, we're not robots.
No, we're not.
This is not AI.
No, and that's never worth it. Mm-hmm. So just be yourself.
Yes, and I think to have the positive voices in our head that would help.
Even if you don't have, then make sure there is someone next to you that has this positive voice and can always tell you, oh, you'll be fine. You're doing good.
Okay, well, thank you so much, all three of you, for this wonderful, insightful talk. It's been a real pleasure. And now we will be ending our second round of the Chopin piano competition with our final pianists. Please enjoy.